Jermaine Mathews Jr. must continue evolving to be the leader Ohio State needs him to be.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. During today's show, we will discuss why Lincoln Kienholz stock continues to rise, as well as why I'm a little bit concerned with the lack of clarity with the Buckeyes starting offensive line. But first, every player's path is different to getting on the field. Some guys like Denzel Burke, and they are fortunate enough to start the very first game in the scarlet and gray, while there are other players out there that have to wait 3, 4, or maybe 5 years to be a consistent starter. No matter the path you have in front of you, the path is your path, and you must make the most of every second. Well, Jermaine Mathews Jr. had to wait a couple of years behind Denzel Burke and Dave Snake-Minosin, but his time is now. And while his time is now, there have been some things he has done off the field that have shown his evolution as a leader, and that has impacted his play on the field, where he's evolving into a consistent starter and a guy that the Buckeyes can lean on in key situations. And while he is continuing to evolve and utilize his emotions in the best way, that evolution must continue. He must continue evolving into being a grown-up, being a grown man on the field, because his emotion, his passion, the way that he plays with his desire to not back down from anybody, that is going to be contagious. That's going to infiltrate other players, and there will be more guys out there on the team that maybe didn't think they would have this not backing down type of mentality, but because Mathews Jr. is like that, that it's impacting how they play. They're going to tap into their emotions, and as long as they contain their emotions and don't let their emotions get the best of them, the Buckeyes can utilize that mindset to be a force on defense. And I firmly believe with the Buckeyes defense this year that the silver bullets will be flying around all over the place. Yes, there are still question marks with this unit in the secondary, at linebacker, and at the defensive line. Every single level, there are questions. However, while there are questions, there are some people making some pretty good projections about what this unit can be. Is it expected to be the number one defense in the country? No. Can it be the number one defense in the country? Absolutely. And a big reason why is because of Mathews Jr. and his evolution. And I believe Ryan Day was the one speaking here behind the podium, talking about Mathews' emotions and how he's utilizing them to help him be a better leader for the Buckeyes. Quote, "He's playing with emotion, and he's not letting emotion play with him. If he sees something, he calls it out. He's become one of our leaders, maybe a little bit unexpectedly. He leads with his heart," end quote. And as I was hearing that from Ryan Day, I had a quick flashback to the Tennessee game a year ago inside the shoe in December. And there were, as they say, maybe 30% or 25 to 30% of the shoe was full of Tennessee orange. And there were Tennessee players, as they went back into the locker room, there were a couple Buckeyes that were right there at the opening for the tunnel, ready to bark a little bit and to chirp a little bit. I remember seeing Jack Sawyer and Jermaine Mathews Jr. right there chomping and talking trash. Why? Because they didn't want Tennessee to get comfortable. Now, the Volunteers are very stupid to roll out there and to not have a shirt on and try to warm up shirtless when it was 20 degrees outside. That's not smart. And I understand that Tennessee doesn't get as consistently cold as it does in Columbus, Ohio. However, not everybody on Tennessee is from the South. They get players from all over the country. So at some point, someone should have stood up and said, "Hey, y'all, look, this ain't smart. We could get sick from this. This ain't the smartest thing at all." But they did it. Man, if someone said something, a lot of guys didn't heed that warning, and you got those Volunteer players to just lay down. And that was a fun game to watch because the Buckeyes beat them down showdown, and it was fun, baby. It was fun to watch that thing all night long. But even last year, when I had a flashback to that, Jermaine was the backup. Now, as I believe it was Tim Walton said, similar to how Laurinaitis views Peyton Pierce, Arvell Reese, and Sonny Styles now, Mathews Jr. was viewed as a starter a year ago. Now, he didn't start, but he was viewed as a starter, which gave him a great vote of confidence, but you can only go so far because he didn't have that starting role. Well, this year he does. He's going to play outside corner opposite Denzel Igbinosun. Is it possible that he moves on to the nickel corner spot if the option or belief that Lorenzo Styles Jr. is going to start there doesn't work out? Okay, yeah. Why? Because you got Bryce West. You have Aaron Scott Jr. You have other guys at Ohio State that have been working hard to take a massive jump this year, just like Jermaine Mathews Jr. His evolution has been a lot of fun to watch, and I do believe this year for Ohio State, they're going to use his emotion in a huge way. If we fast forward a little bit to the game against Texas, his emotion is going to be huge. It's going to be big for him because as he is going to utilize the emotion and help him to play his best, think about how it's going to help guys that really haven't played much, or they're a transfer in Bo Atkinson and Logan George, or you're like a Keanu Jackson Jr. or a Caden Curry, where you played a little bit of football in a backup role, but never as a consistent starter. And if Mathews Jr. has a mindset that he's not backing down from anybody, that can impact the other players there on defense, even the offense. Because if I'm CJ Donaldson and I see Mathews Jr. out there talking trash and not backing down from anybody, getting his helmet down there in the trenches and making big boy tackles behind the line of scrimmage, that's going to encourage him. I just picked one player out just because he was on my head at the top of my head, but he is going to help players on the Buckeyes offense go all out as well. A year ago, Mathews Jr. played in all 16 games Ohio State played. He's played in 27 games in his first 2 years at Columbus. That is a lot. I was not expecting the number to be that high or for him to play 11 games during his true freshman season. That is insane. But that goes to show the belief in the skill set that he has and his desire to do some good things in special teams that allow him to play 11 games during his true freshman season. Last year was his best year statistically, 22 tackles, 3 TFLs. He also had a sack during his true freshman year. He had a pick six, and I remember I was at that game. Forgive me for not remembering the opponent. I think it was Indiana, but I remember that game, and I remember being there in the stands, and I looked out, and Mathews Jr. caught that ball, and I remember standing up and say, "There you go, freshman." Pretty loud, actually. Not as soft as I am coming through your speakers right now, but I remember standing up and yelling and clapping my hands because I was very excited for Mathews Jr. to get his role out there, to stunt like he can, to go out there and to skedaddle into the end zone. And I do believe this year for Ohio State, his evolution is key. Not just for the Buckeyes to get the best out of this young man, but it is key for the Buckeyes defense to be the best unit it can be. I am not going to try to say they're going to be the number 5 team in rush defense or number 2 in pass defense or number 1 in scoring defense. I'm not here to make those bold predictions because I don't have enough data to make a prediction like this. You might. I don't. I do have enough data to make this statement about Mathews Jr. This is the evolution that was expected as far as the progression on the field. The leadership stuff, being more vocal, that was unexpected, but that must continue as well. The player he is now, he must continue evolving to be a better player because the Buckeyes are going to push him and to challenge him to be everything that he can be. Ryan Day recently said guys got to step up. And to me, that's not just about the guys with the position battles. That's talking about guys that know they have starting roles already cemented, but they still got to get ready and ramped up and picking up the pace in preparation for a battle with the number 1 team in the country on Labor Day weekend. Speaking of a battle with the number 1 team in the country on Labor Day weekend, the Buckeyes offensive line is a unit that we thought we would have a lot of clarity on at this point in camp, but unfortunately we don't. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all in one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code Locked On College. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Every day, as we are close, oh so close to hitting the 5,000 subscriber mark on the YouTube. You guys have done a great job over the past month just boosting into the YouTube. The views are getting higher, the downloads are getting higher, ramping up into what should be a very special season for the Buckeyes, and it's going to be a whole lot better once we hit this milestone. If you have not already subscribed to the Locked On Buckeyes YouTube page, do it. If you're driving, wait a little bit till you stop, till you're out of your car, and then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're not driving, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube. If you do it on your phone or your computer or tablet, to join a very exclusive and growing group of Ohio State football fans. Speaking of Ohio State football fans, a lot of you have been wondering about the starting offensive line, because I know if I have a question about it, you probably have a question about it. And if I have a concern, you probably do too. And this is a unit that I thought going into training camp, we didn't have many questions about. We knew who the starting five were projected to be. We knew that if there was going to be a change, it might be here. But then there are more things that have come out this week from Ryan Day and then Tyler Bowen and some other players and some players on the team that leave me a little concerned about the lack of clarity with the Buckeyes offensive line. I'm only a little concerned because this should have already been ironed out. You should not be at this point in training camp and to have the offensive line be a major question mark because you don't know who your starting five is going to be. Think back to last year for a little bit before we dive into what's actually happening right now. Last year, during the playoff, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinzman, Austin Cereville, Tego Shabola. All four of those guys got valuable minutes and reps during the playoff due to the Buckeyes suffering some pretty key injuries. And what did you find? Hinzman, phenomenal, and a backup role. The other three guys in Montgomery and Shabola and Cereville, they were phenomenal in their roles too. They stepped up in a huge way, bookended by Josh Fryer on the right, Donovan Jackson on the left, and that unit was strong, leading and helping the Buckeyes win the national championship. So that was my expectation, was those four guys would be starters, and they still might be starters. But the lack of clarity at this point in camp shouldn't be a thing. You should already know who your starters are going to be. Now, I understand there's another scrimmage on Saturday, and you may want to say, Jay, isn't that okay for Ohio State to have another scrimmage for them to iron everything out? Yes, I understand that thought. However, it is August the 13th. The Buckeyes play the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. They play Texas. This is not a time to just experiment and throw different things out there and to try to see what sticks. No. This is a time for the starting five on the offensive line to build chemistry. Not experiment with guys playing different positions, but to consistently build chemistry. And I understand the primary and secondary positions and how some guys' primary position might be guard on either side. And the secondary position is tackle, maybe on one side. And I understand trying to get guys a lot of reps. I 100% get that. However, while this method might work out to perfection on Labor Day weekend, I am still going to be a little bit concerned because this is not how things are supposed to go with this unit, especially after what happened a year ago. Here's where we are right now with this unit. As we recently learned, Austin Cereville is exclusively at left tackle. He is definitely going to start. I thought he was going to be the starting right tackle this year, which I still don't think is the right position for him. He is now probably going to be the starting left tackle. There might be a trust factor where Ryan Day and Tyler Bowen have more trust with him at left tackle than anybody else. So you go with the guy that you trust in that position. Great, cool. Luke Montgomery at left guard, where I thought that was a no-brainer, and it still might be where he plays. We recently found out that he's played all 5 offensive line positions during training camp, which I understand the cross-training and trying to figure things out, but a lot of that stuff to me should have been done during spring ball. Now, I understand different transfers, and you're getting more practice time, and you're a little bit heavier, and you're in better shape now than you were in spring ball, so I understand trying to get that stuff now. However, this is not the time to experiment. Think back to a few years ago. Now, the Buckeyes had a good record during this time. I still didn't think it was the best. I'm looking back in the moment. I was kind of excited, like, oh man, it's a heavy unit. But Thayer Mumford at, I believe, left guard, Paris Johnson Jr. at right guard. Now, Paris was a little bit different. He is not your normal traditional left tackle. He can play guard, and he did a great job playing guard that time. I think it was Matthew Jones who came off the bench that year, where DeJuan Jones was the starting right tackle, where Matthew Jones should have been the starting guard on either side. He was coming off the bench because the Buckeyes said, we're putting the best 5 out there. And their best 5, which I still don't even believe were the best 5 at the time, were 4 tackles and a center. And I hope that we don't come to a point this year with Ohio State, at least in training camp, where the moment we get clarity about the offensive line, it turns into, well, these are the best 5, not the right 5. We've had the conversation. I understand the best 5. What are the right 5? Because sometimes your best 5 offensive linemen aren't the right 5. Think about it in the NBA. And I'm going back a little bit. I don't know why this is on my head. But for some reason, James Harden popped into my head because I went a flashback to the Oklahoma City Thunder days with Russell Westbrook and KD and James Harden and Ibaka and Thabo Cephalosha. I think that was self-check. That's what Babani Jones called him. And there were other guys out there that were really, that was a really good squad. But James Harden was the 6th man. Now, he was one of the best 5 players on the team, but for that unit, he wasn't the right 5 to start. For that team, he came off the bench. However, he was with the closing 5. Why? Because while he was a part of the best 5 on the team, it was also the right time for him to get on the court. Similar thing with Ohio State. And this is for anybody. Do you want to play? Because maybe your best 4 D linemen are not 2 tackles and 2 ends, but you got to play the right 5. And so for the Buckeyes, Sarevelt, cool. Montgomery's playing all 5 positions. I think Henchman's been at center. He's probably done a little bit at guard, but he's going to be at center. That's fine. Tegra Shabola has been moving from guard to tackle a little bit. Ananwa has done battles with Edric Houston and Caden McDonald, where no one really expected him to get run at guard, but now he's getting some run and then battling with those boys in the trenches. Philip Daniels has taken a massive step forward, which is great, which is huge. And maybe he is the curveball that's been thrown at the Buckeyes coaches when trying to figure out who the starting offensive line is going to be. If that is the case, that is good. However, they still need to figure out who the 5 are. Because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know a little bit about football. Ryan Day is not going to roll out there with a starting unit on Saturday in the scrimmage that is experimental. No. You're going to roll out there with the ones that you believe are going to be a starting unit. Now, that is behind closed doors. And so when Ryan Day does that, there will be people there watching that are in a very, very, very close and tight-knit group that are sworn to secrecy and not allowing some of the nerd notes that come out from the scrimmage to become public or even to be said to people that might put it into an article. I get that. I like it. However, Ryan Day knows what the starting 5 is going to be. Him not providing a starting offensive line now, is it needed? No. Is clarity needed to be found? Absolutely. Could this be a competitive advantage the Buckeyes are trying to have over Texas? 100%. And I do think Ryan Day and the coaches at times are getting behind the microphone and are saying things because They're trying to throw Texas off. I get it. I understand. But I think the lack of clarity while trying to throw another team off is making Ohio State look a little odd right now. What is not looking odd is a stock that is attached to Lincoln Kienholz back because that young man has done great things. He did great things in spring ball. He did great things during the summer, and he continues to do great things during training camp as well. Thank you all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. It has been a while since we have done a middle of the week stock watch. That is normally something that is reserved for the season, where each Wednesday we'll come on the show and do three different topics or players that have stock rising, and then do the same thing. Three players or ideas or topics where stock is falling. And so we're introducing this now before week 0 kicks off next week. There will still be a stock watch next week, and then every week from here up until December, we'll do a stock watch because, well, you need to know whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. Stock up first on Lincoln Kienholz, because back in the spring, there was a belief that he was not going to be it wasn't going to be a competitive quarterback battle. I know Ryan Day said that it was neck and neck during spring ball, but Sayan has the arm talent that people are still drooling over right now. And so for Kienholz to work and grind during spring ball, to be an Iron Buckeye at the end of summer workouts, and then right now going into the second scrimmage of team camp, it surely seems like Ryan Day and the other coaches are in a standstill and not really sure which way to go. Yes, there will be times in practice that Sayan throws a better ball, and I'm not going to deny that's probably going to happen. However, while that's probably going to happen, there are intangibles that Kienholz possesses that you can't teach and that Sayan doesn't have. And what the Buckeyes got a year ago with Will Howard was a quarterback that has intangibles that you can't teach, which helped lead the Buckeyes to win a national championship. Will Howard's arm also got stronger. His pocket presence got better. His clock in his head got a whole lot quicker and sped up to match the speed that Ohio State has. And I think Kienholz right now can win the quarterback competition. I know my pick is saying I haven't changed that. I'm not going to. However, if there's a guy right now that can compete, that is an underdog, and that can actually win the job at his position, it is Lincoln Kienholz. Trust me, this young man is a gamer. He can ball, and he could be the Buckeye starting quarterback this year. Stock up on Kenyatta Jackson Jr. Now, around here, we're going to call him K-Jack. So if I don't first say Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and I only say K-Jack, you know that's who we're talking about, because number 97, as one NFL draft analyst said, oh, wait, that was right here on the show, and Ryan Roberts, that he gave Kenyatta Jackson Jr. a top 75 grade in the offseason, and this young man has not played a lot of football, but he has traits and a size and a skill set that you can't teach. Now, let's say that he goes on the field this year and he does what many are predicting, and that is the Buckeyes doing big things and Jackson leading the team in sacks. If that happens, he may be gone after 1 year, but you got to get to the season, get through the season first. And I think K-Jack right now, similar to some other guys at Ohio State that hadn't played a long time but are now going to have a bigger role, I think he's ready for it. Similar to the evolution of Jermaine Mathews Jr. Where Jr. is ready, I believe K-Jack is ready too. Stock up on Austin Sarafold, man. A guy who was an Iron Buckeye who cemented his spot in the starting O-line a year ago. I think he's a big reason why the Buckeyes are forced to rotate at guard, because Sarafold kept getting better and better and better. Now you're an Iron Buckeye, and now you are playing exclusively at left tackle, and it is viewed right now as a realistic opportunity for Sarafold to be the starting left tackle, which is not what I thought was going to happen. But when you grind like he does, and when you put all your chips out there like he did, what are you going to find? You are going to find that this young man, Austin Sarafold, is doing everything correctly, and he's doing it so well that the coaches are put in a spot that they have to put him on the field. He's earned it. He's also one of the best five. I think it's a part of the right 5 too. Here's the negative part, and this may be just me trying to fill space, but I don't think so. Stock down on injuries. I remember earlier this in training camp, there was a moment where at the end of a show we talked about 4 or 5 injuries, and I don't believe any of those were Edric Houston's injuries. Now he's back at practice now, but injuries suck. Nobody likes guys that get injured. From guys that have a cast or to get a boot, things of that nature. Nobody likes them, and so injuries aren't fun. And I'm always going to put a stock down on injuries because there have been numerous Buckeye players that were so injured they weren't able to practice. Stock down on unresolved position battles because, look, this stuff can be settled now. And I know this is different than last year, but I have been on the record to say that it's possible, and I'm not denying that it's possible, that Ohio State could have already internally named the starting quarterback. And I think it is a real thing to where internally Jeremiah Smith and Tate and others already know who QB1 is going to be, but maybe Day is kind of prolonging the conversation to get a competitive advantage. That may happen. I think Ryan Day is smart enough to do something like that. But this stuff can be resolved right now. I'm going to add a fourth. I'm going to leave the last one last after this next. I'm about to interject. Stock down on Ohio State not releasing an official playbook. Depth chart. Now, it doesn't need to happen, and there are no rules that demand it happening in college football. So I understand why Ryan Day doesn't do it, but you can release a depth chart. Are there really guys at Ohio State that if you see them on the field that they're going to make you shake in your boots? Yeah, probably. But those are also the guys that are going to start, and everybody knows they're going to start. Man, I literally have a preview magazine next to me, and in front of on the page of every single school, it has a predicted depth chart, and it even has the previous year's starters in bold. Oh, it doesn't just have a 1 deep; it has a 2 deep, and so depth charts are fine. I'm here for them. I don't think it's a real big desire to just hold back. If you release it, it ain't gonna hurt nothing, and you can still go undefeated. Stock down on that. Stock down also on the AP voters. I'm gonna put the AP top 25 up at the wonderful people from Locked On and the graphics team put it together. This is a YouTube exclusive. That is the graphic right now in regards to Notre Dame being number 6. Now, as you said, just review a little bit if you missed the show. Yesterday's show reacting to the AP Top 25 in the preseason. There are a few Big Ten teams in here. Number 20 is Indiana. That shocks me. I don't think it should be number 20. Number 14 is Michigan. Once again, I don't think they should be number 14. Number 12, Illinois. Number 7 is Oregon. 3, Ohio State, and 2, Penn State. Now, here's the weird thing. Notre Dame is number 6. Georgia's 5. Clemson 4. Ohio State 3, Penn State 2, Texas 1. I think Notre Dame is a top 5 team and is probably the number 4 team in the country. And that is me knowing they have a true freshman starting quarterback in C.J. Carr. Yes, the grandson of Floyd Carr. It's weird to me that a Michigan man is having his grandson's going to Notre Dame. She's an arch rival of Michigan, but that's where he wanted to go to school. Similar to Chase Herbstreit. Herbstreit's boy wanted to go to Michigan. Do I like it? That's where he wanted to go to school. I understand why he made that decision. Similar to CJ Carr, I understand why he went to Notre Dame. I understand that they have a new quarterback. But they have star power on offense and Jeremiah Love. They have star power on defense. They do have some new faces in new places. But as you know, with Notre Dame, they're always going to have a strong and sound offensive line, and they have numerous starters on that unit returning from last year's team. They went to the national championship game. Receivers are going to be fine. Defense is going to be fine. Yes, they lose Al Golden to the Cincinnati Bengals. However, I believe that engine with Marcus Freeman at the helm is going to be a well-oiled machine. I don't believe, I'm going to put this up once again for the viewers on YouTube, that Notre Dame is a number 6 team. I probably would have put Notre Dame at number 4, ahead of Georgia and ahead of Clemson. Tigers fans and the Dog fans are going to hate me for that, but it's a projection. It's a preseason poll. What is it based off of? A lot of stuff that doesn't have to do with what's going to happen on the field. I'll leave it there. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Football, because my guy Spencer McLaughlin is going to keep you up to date with everything going on in college football, as well as prepare you for week 0 as the 2025 season kicks off in a little over a week from now. You can follow and subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes and Locked On College Football right there on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a hump day. We'll see you next time.